Hey guys, Moms Against Medical Bullying. I'm reading from Goodbye Germ Theory. Page 170. Page 170, actually. On the microzyma. So here it goes. Okay. KC. This theory laid out for us by Bechamp holds tremendous potential for the well-being of our planet here and now. It shows us that if we are responsible for our lives, if we manage our diets in a healthy fashion which is consistent with our species, if we maintain our fluid balance properly to persistently cleanse our circulatory system and lymphatic system, if we strive to keep our circulatory and lymphatic system alkaline, if we take more action to think and emote more positively, productively, and responsibly, then microzyma will have no need to change into the so-called pathogenic and infective microbes as they are classified by medicine. Clearly, the problem is not the microbe. The problem is the individual lifestyle, which creates an environmental need for the production of virus, bacteria, and fungus through spontaneous generation from microzyma. These living things, that's the dog, these living things are not the opportunistic villains they are made out to be. They are a very methodical class of living organisms called saprophytes. Saprophytes have one major job on the planet. Dr. Trebing says the word planet a lot in his book, just saying. And that is simply to ingest dead organic matter. When an animal or plant dies and falls into the earth, these organisms rise up to the occasion and eat the now dead organic matter that has become void of life force or nerve energy. They rise up within each cell of the human body to accomplish the same task. In our present society, the average person is replete with excess proteinaceous waste and other dietary toxins that can be eliminated with more responsible eating habits. Microzyma persistently change into the necessary saprophytic forms and seem ubiquitous in most folks since they are always on call to eat an endless supply of dead organic waste in the form of clumpy, undigested proteins which are abundant in the average individual. This, of course, leads to another problem of excess metabolic waste production from the ongoing saprophytic activity within the body, which in and of itself kills more cells through the toxicity it generates. When a medical professional notices a so-called pathogen creating toxins in and around the cells through their metabolic processes, they believe they are attacking the person, when in fact they are simply there doing their job in an attempt to purify the person by eating the dead organic material which is foreign and highly toxic to the body. Once again, the doctor needs to look at the entire movie instead of a single photo taken out of context. Clearly, this Pasteurian way of thinking, this theory everything is based on, called the germ theory, has done nothing to productively serve society. Logically, we thus have to look to a more common sense philosophy, like spontaneous generation, backed up by Bechamp's research. Even more clearly, not one sentence of the medical cartel research which supports the germ theory can refute the validity of spontaneous generation. Regarding every single piece of propaganda research insisting on microbial pathogenic infection which attacks people, we can say, now wait a minute, there is no evidence and never has been any evidence that these microorganisms are solely responsible for this disease process. Germ theory research relies on the supposition, or more poignantly, the superstition that just because we see these microorganisms present at the scene of the crime in whatever numbers within a sick person, that they are the cause of the disease and difficulty. This is the same reasoning which would lead one to believe that rats create garbage. No, the rats don't create the garbage on the streets, we create it. The rats are just there doing their job because the garbage is sitting on the street way too long, especially during a sanitation strike. Throughout history, what most people believe were epidemics created by infection through microorganisms were in reality issues of both external and internal sanitation. But many parents say, hey, wait a minute, my kid gets sick through the contagious pattern at her primary school. Once, almost half the class and the teacher were out because they passed the same bug amongst themselves for weeks. This is not true, however. They passed nothing between themselves. In fact, they were more likely reacting collectively to the toxicity which runs rampant in most primary schools from molds and other fungus spores, as well as different chemical toxins. These things occur from a stance of group detoxification, which also has energetic components, which can certainly influence people who are in close contact on a daily basis. The human body's energy fields are more powerful than most people even imagine. When one human body is detoxing, an almost magnetic effect, what's the dog doing? An almost magnetic effect, where am I here? Radiates out from such individuals, causing the same purifying effects in the immediate environment of people around them. We are not witnessing epidemics or contagious infections. We are witnessing a group healing process which is totally natural to our species. I think somebody's vacuuming their car. Let's see here. The next logical area of discussion after knowing this information on spontaneous generation and how all things have purpose is the benefit of allowing yourself and your child to experience an acute illness from the get-go through to its natural healthy completion. This is God's way of creating a natural lifetime immunity which leads to a healthy adult life well adapted to the environment. Yes, this can be very challenging. Yes, this can be frightening. But that is only because you have limited knowledge and thus faith in the unlimited potential for healing life and substance given to you by the energetic life force which created you. This intricate wisdom which runs each of the thousands of chemical reactions that go on in each one of your body cells each and every second of the day knows far better than any limited educated and ego greed-centered perspective on how to keep the body in healthy, harmonious homeostasis with the earth and environment in which you were spawned. One key phrase you should always remember, one that will get you back on track and keep you focused no matter what the challenge in life is if I have faith in anything, anything can happen. The sky is the limit. If I have faith in nothing, nothing will ever happen. I am limited only by the boundaries of my own thought. Do you expect to get ill? Then you will. Do you have some kind of psychological dependence for staying ill? Then you will never get well. When you learn to trust the inner power which runs the physical body, over time you develop an acute kinesthetic experience of this very inner power within you, caring for you and keeping your body in perfect order. Symptoms of any kind are the body's method of purification, alerting you to make a change in lifestyle somehow. Hippocrates, the father of medicine, wrote, "Diseases of any kind are crises of purification, of toxic elimination. Symptoms are the natural defenses of the body. We call them diseases, but in fact, they are the cure of diseases." Our family has observed firsthand that allowing your children to go through illness and come out the other end produces an array of benefits psychologically, physically, and intellectually. They really do grow through the experience quite naturally, and we often notice greater, more advanced intellectual and physical shifts as a result. I'm just going to stop there on page 173. So I thought that was a good portion to read on the microbes. His next chapter, chapter 10, is labeled Those Pesky Epidemics. And I didn't know there's a service called the Epidemic Intelligence Service, EIS. That's interesting. So that's the chapter that I'm on now. I just wanted to read some notes that I had. That's a lot of notes. What did I write here? Forcing people through the letter of the law to cover their face is government overreach based on medical philosophical belief system. Since when is breathing unobstructed a crime? And since when is it okay for the government to overreach so badly as to tell people when they can and cannot breathe freely? It is unconstitutional to ask a free man to obstruct his or her breathing for even 1 second. Casey, you quit that, girl. Masks obstruct deep breathing and are not healthy. At least for me, in my opinion, and for my body. Medicine and state should be separate, as medicine is full of its own philosophies and beliefs of man that can be swayed by money and corrupted by the ego. The state should not fund a particular medicinal practice, as that is seen as favoring one medicine or belief over another. The state shall not encourage a free man to engage in a medicinal belief system, as a free man has a right to choose his or her own practices for their own body. Each man can only be responsible for his own well-being. Medicine has for too long allowed to be a public safety issue, which sits on a theory of germs concocted by Louis Pasteur. The state does not recognize Antoine Bechamp, who has other scientific theories and experiments in regards to microorganisms and how they do not cause disease but are only the result of diseased tissue in the body. Since there are differing scientific theories and observations, one shall not be allowed to rule through our state and be enforced over the people, because that is the state enforcing one belief system over another. What else do I have here? These are just like some notes that I keep in my computer. I wrote here, asking me to wear a face covering is telling me I must bow to you and the authorities that you believe in, and make a silent false admission that I am contaminated and a danger and threat to society. God breathed in me the breath of life, and therefore I have an inalienable right to breathe. That is against my conscience to come into agreement with your belief. I believe what God says about me, and that is that I am holy and without blame before him in love, which is Ephesians 1:4. The state seeks to say that I am to blame. 2 Corinthians 3:18 says that my face, not covered, shows the bright glory of the Lord, as the Lord's Spirit makes us more and more like our glorious Lord. Colossians 2:21-23 says, do not handle, do not taste, do not touch. These rules, which have to do with things that are all destined to perish with use, are based on merely human commands and teachings. Such regulations indeed have an appearance of wisdom with their self-imposed worship, their false humility, and their harsh treatment of the body, but they lack any value in restraining sensual indulgence. Colossians 2:8 tells me to see to it that no one takes me captive through hollow and deceptive philosophy, which depends on human tradition, and the elemental spiritual forces of this world rather than Christ. So, I do not consent to covering my face. This dog is always chewing something. Yeah, and I figured in my last video, I was reading the speech or letter that I'm going to use for the face covering regulation, and so I'm going to insert about the religious exemption somewhere in there. Actually, I know where. After, like down in my speech, I wrote, the word emergency does not give unconstitutional powers to the state. And if the state does assume unconstitutional powers, then those laws or regulations confer no rights, impose no duties, afford no protections, creates no office, and is in legal contemplation as inoperative, as though it had never been passed. So, to avoid that, either this regulation needs to be stricken or a religious exemption needs to be added. So the regulation would need to be amended to include a religious exemption to wearing a face covering, because it is against my religion. It is against my conscience. The thing is that then I thought, well, so many Christians are, so-called Christians are following along with the orders and this and that, and they may say, just like with vaccines, well, other Christians do it. Well, I don't care. I'm not a part of their religion. This is my religion. It's against my religion. So, it's against my religious belief system to cover my face. It is egregious for the government to think they have the right to do that. It just really boggles my mind. But that's how abusers are. They gaslight you. They're good at what they do, and they're good at making you feel like you're crazy. But it's like, excuse me, like, you want to cover everyone's face. I think you're the one who's losing it a little bit. That's weird. Okay? Like, you're the one in the wrong, right? You just want everyone to follow your orders. Like, what world are you living in here, buddy? All right, everyone, have a good night and take care.